Today on Dr. Phil. What really happened inside Warren Jeff's FLDS church? A former member speaks out.
Warren Jeff molested me when I was 5. He would say, you can't say anything to anyone because if you do, you're going to burn in hell.
I believe that if the case was legit, it would have been a criminal case.
You believe that Brent's making this up and is lying?
I would just ask this respect.
Still can't answer the question. Answer the question.
I challenge seriously.
Yes or no?
What I don't want to do is sound like I'm defending Warren. What I'm
Then stop defending him.
And a disputed document
This was signed by you saying, let Warren Jeff go.
Did you sign this document?
leads to a confrontation.
I've been over backwards to treat you fairly, and you're throwing books.
I dropped the book. I didn't mean to throw it.
The people here feel that you're not being honest. They came here wanting to forgive you, but instead what they've gotten is belligerence, anger, and avoidance. Let's do it. If we're going to do something here that matters, then we got to deal with the truth.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
If I can help get this family back on track, are you willing to do that?
Ready, free, take.
This is going to be a changing day in your life. Yesterday, I sat down with a bodyguard and former spokesman for the FLDS, a religious sect surrounded in controversy. Now, our conversation was intense, it was sometimes heated, and often frustrating as I tried to get to the bottom of what really happened behind the walls of the secretive compound. Now, Warren Jeffs is serving a life sentence, having been convicted on 2 counts of sexual assault with a child. One of the girls was only 12. The other was 15. Jeffs has now filed a handwritten motion seeking a new trial. A lot of questions still remain about the future of the religious sect. Now today, as we continue our conversation with former FLDS spokesman Willie Jessop, some former members of the sect will confront him. They say they don't believe a word he is saying. First, here's what Willie told us yesterday. Did you believe Warren Jeffs was a prophet?
Absolutely.
Were you aware that he was having sex with teenage girls, 12 years old, 14 years old?
No. When all this came out, your photos that are up, that is absolutely in the community. It's photoshopped. It doesn't exist. It was done with computers.
You could tell them that this was Photoshopped, but their eyes weren't. They had to see him. How could you be that close and involved and not know what was going on?
Doctor, look, there is enough blame here.
You say that there weren't pregnant teenage girls walking around in either of these communities.
Doctor, that sounds pretty sensational, but I'm going to call you out on that one. It's disingenuous.
Tell me that's a 19-year-old. You're saying it's disingenuous for me to ask you that question. It's disingenuous for you to tell me that that is a 19-year-old girl.
Never even tried, did I?
I think you did.
No, that isn't the question, Doctor. That is unexcusable,
So you
and
want
you
to
and I
take
know
me to
that.
task, I'll take you to task right back, my friend.
You better not take it to that. That is unexcusable.
That's exactly how I'm taking it. Were you the guy that went and told some of them you got to go from here, leave your home, leave your family, get out? Was that part of your job?
I did it without the knowledge of what the reasons were.
I think you're obfuscating here. I think you're just talking around in circles. What turned the light on for you?
First of all, we listened to an audio tape, right, in the trial.
Well, I want the audience to hear that tape now.
You know, I've had you touch me often during these sessions. You felt it yesterday. Do you feel it again? So focused and submissive.
That's disturbing. Is there anything you want to say that you haven't said so far?
I was a part of a regime that hurt people really, really bad, and I live with it every day.
Joining me now is Private Investigator Sam Brower, who has been on the case for the past 7 years and has written a book titled Prophets Pray that tells of his investigation behind the scenes of the FLDS. Now, sitting next to Sam is Joni, who is married to a former FLDS member and has taken in many of the lost children. Now, next to Willie is Brent Jeffs, Warren's nephew, who claims that he was abused at the hands of his uncle, and you testified in the trial.
Absolutely.
As well. Now, one of the things that we concluded with here is Willie says that not much has changed since Warren has been in prison for these years because he continues to kind of run things from there through his brothers. You've been investigating this thing from the outside. Is that how it seems to you?
In fact, it may be even getting worse as far as...
How would you know that?
Just from my contacts in the FLDS and from me spending time there. And I think that now Warren's establishing himself as a martyr. That's one of the personas he was trying to put out during the trial there. And I think in the town, in the places of refuge, there's probably getting to be a little more tension and more animosity because of what's taken place and what's happening to him.
So you all agree about that the people inside the church don't get what's happened. They don't know it. They don't see the papers, the TV. They don't accept what they do see. So they're even more threatened by the outside world.
They're definitely more threatened. And
do you agree with that?
Yeah, to some degree with that.
Joni, what do you want to say? You've been watching the show so far.
You knew. You knew more than what you're saying up here. And you hurt families. You did. When you put these men out, you hurt their families. Knowing that, you still went ahead and did it. How? A man of God, how could a man of God do that?
Well, it goes to, glad to respond to it. It goes to the problem I had before. Do you want to give me a specific? Give me a person, and let's talk about that case. But unless you're willing to give me a case with a face, not a generality, it's very hard to be direct because you're asking me a direct question on a general topic. Let's break a family or a circumstance down, and let's talk about that one, and not make me have to put a broad brush because I'm telling you, it was wrong. It was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Well, Fawn is here to talk about a specific situation. She escaped the FLDS when she was just 17. When I first met her 6 years ago, she only had a 4th grade education. And she said, I don't know what a dinosaur is. She didn't believe that there had ever been a man on the moon. She still has family living inside the sect. Take a look at this.
I was always taught that people outside the town were wicked, evil, scary people. I never learned any science. I was taught that there was never been a man on the moon. I was taught that dinosaurs were not true. I still believe there's no man on the moon.
Do you want to go back?
The only reason I would go back is for my mom and my brothers and sisters.
You miss your family?
Yes. Ever since Warren was arrested and going through all these trials, it feels to me like my family's become more scared of their salvation. Recently, my father has cut communication with me and my brothers. It's fear because he still believes that Warren is the true prophet. I'm really worried about my little sisters. November 13th was the last time I saw my family. My father asked me to meet him at the gas station. My little sisters got out of the car and come running around, and the 16-year-old, she gave me a hug and she wouldn't let go. Like there was something wrong. But she couldn't say anything to me. It was like she was screaming to help. I couldn't do anything. They all hugged me like that, but nobody said anything. And I just told her, I will always be here for her if she needs anything.
Fawn, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too.
Tell me how you're doing.
Doing pretty good, except for the part that my family's still part of it.
That you still have family that's there.
Yes, it's very hard.
What was your understanding of why the girls weren't educated more?
He asked me to pull my pants down and kneel down in front of the tub. And then he, undid his own pants. The pain felt like someone shoving a kitchen knife inside of you over and over and over and over. That pain would not go away, ever.
What was your understanding of why the girls weren't educated more?
Doctor, you're going to have to forgive me on that because I think you're going to find that there again, it's a broad statement, and I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of very smart, very intellect, a lot of girls that go to college. There's a lot of them that are starting in the nursing schools, and I think if you go to the hospitals, you're going to find a lot of them, the nurses there, and It's a general statement that I don't think really fits. I think it varies greatly from family to family and circumstances and resources to resources. But I don't think there's anyone that intentionally educates their daughter less than their son.
Tell me what you're doing now as far as schooling and job and all that sort of thing.
I'm a proud single parent. I have a 3-year-old little girl.
Congratulations.
I finished high school. Thank you. Now I'm working for a gas station in town where I live, and I'm a second assistant manager there. I absolutely love it.
So you love your job?
Yes, I do.
Now, Brent is here. I want to take a look at what Brent says happened at the hands of Warren Jeffs, and then we'll talk to Brent.
Warren Jeffs is a very deep, secretive, dark pedophile to the fullest. Warren Jeffs molested me when I was 5. Growing up, he was the principal of the school. I remember the day that Warren had taken me down the hall and into a little bathroom. I remember that day like it was yesterday. That day will haunt me for the rest of my life. As it was happening, he would say, "We're going to do something that is between me and you and God, and this is God's will, and I need you to understand this. And I don't, you can't say anything to anyone, because if you do, you're going to burn in hell." He asked me to pull my pants down and kneel down in front of the tub. And then he, undid his own pants. The pain felt like someone shoving a kitchen knife inside of you over and over and over and over. That pain would not go away, ever. From that day forward, God to me was someone that liked to hurt people. God is someone that liked to make you angry or sad. And Warren Jeffs to me was someone that was evil and dark, but in a lot of pain, and that he was trying to take his pain away and put it inside of me. I think Warren Jeffs molested a few of my family members. That's when something inside of me says, you know what? You have the power inside of you to stand up against this monster. When I was down in the courtroom on the witness stand, I was able to tell my story to the world, tell my story to the jury, and help everyone understand what kind of monster Warren Jeffs was and still is.
I was a victim of him, but now I can stand 10 feet tall and say, you are where you belong. And I'm able to let go of all this and move on with my life.
Well, Brent, you're very courageous to share that at trial and to share it here, and it was so good to hear you hold your head up and say, I've got, it's out, it's there, and
you get to stand up to him and be done with this guy.
So what's happening in your life at this point?
I have a beautiful little daughter that I'm raising. I work at a dental facility. My life is great. I'm happy. This thing down in Texas has been absolute closure for me. Finally get to be able to be on the stand, testify against him, and show everyone what he really is like. That has been absolutely the best thing that I have ever done, and be able to stand in front of him and have him look me in the eyes and say, you got what you deserved, and have him haul him out of there. That was absolute closure for me.
You were watching Willie and I talk about what's going on there. Anything you want to say to Willie about anything that we talked about between us?
I'm confused, because to me, how can you not know what he's doing to some degree? You were so close to him and his bodyguard. How can you not know in the slightest what was going on? So you're saying after all of this, I'm a liar?
I'm just saying, look, if there's crimes committed, you have a courtroom and everybody gets out there. You had your day in court.
This is typical
and
of
it was
the mentality.
Dismissed.
This is typical of the mentality. You were so close to him and his bodyguard. How can you not know in the slightest what was going on? That's my question, is how?
You asked for it, I'll give it to you. I had fought and defended thousands of accusations against him. We had won them fair and square in a courtroom. I had taken your case fair and square, and it was dropped by the Utah Attorney General's office because it was memory enhancement that you suddenly had all these things. And I went to the people that you accused of saying that held you down, and they said we were never even part of the religion at the time that you accused them. And you absolutely hurt some very good people yourself by telling them that they held you down when Warren did it. And the Utah Attorney General and your friends said they weren't in the church. They weren't in the church for years before and years after. And yet you accused them of being a part of the molest of it. And they were hurt really bad, Brent.
So you're saying after all of this, I'm a liar?
I'm just saying, look, if there's crimes committed, you have a courtroom and everybody gets out there. You had your day in court.
This is typical
and
of
it was
the mentality.
dismissed.
This is typical of the mentality.
I've got to jump in here.
Very typical.
Brent had his day in court, and Warren ran. He didn't show up. He went and hid.
You couldn't face me. How guilty
not
can
only
you
Brent, but everybody else. He did the same thing we saw him do in Texas at the trial there. When it came down to facing his accusers, he left the courtroom and hid.
I am not going to sit here and say that his family didn't go through some terrible trauma. I will just say this. He went to the government, he went to law enforcement, and he filed a complaint against him.
And so we went and did a civil one.
And because
just like the O.J. Simpson case.
The point that I'm getting at is that you want me to assume that there was guilt when there was an open-ended investigation.
So you are defending him?
No, what I'm defending is...
You just called me a liar.
I am saying that when you do not have a judicial system that works, and on the evidence that he had, there is this attitude and this mentality that let's go ahead and indict, convict, and kill without ever even a court case.
Listen, what's your point here? Do you think he was not molested by Warren Jeffs?
I'll put it this way. Their family was severely traumatized. I believe that if the case was legit, it would have been a criminal case. There would have been a trial, and we'd have went to court.
Willie, there's all kinds of cases. Criminal cases
that don't go to court. Do you want us to just assume it without even having evidence?
I'm just asking you personally, do you believe this man came here and lied? Do you believe that Brent's making this up and is lying?
I would just ask this respect. Because of him alleging other people involved in this?
You still can't answer the question.
Answer the question. I challenge seriously the validity of it, and that's it.
Okay.
And I don't have enough to say it's an absolute. It wasn't, but the evidence I've seen, there was people that you accused that weren't even in the church and had not even been there.
That has nothing to do with it. This is between Warren.
But you accused other people.
Yes, and they were there. I saw them.
If the government would have believed you, they would have filed a case. That's all I can say. They would have done it. They would not have covered it up.
So
That's not true.
was this
They
case?
didn't cover it up. They didn't file a case for many different reasons. That's why we took it civilly. And if Warren was not guilty, why did he take off and run?
I'm not going to sit and defend that as far as that aspect. All I'm saying is...
You are defending it.
Well, here's the thing I'm defending. I'm defending a Constitution. And in the Constitution, I'm innocent until proven guilty.
And later...
You got to start saying you're sorry and mean it. And I hope that's the path you're going on.
For you to come in here and say that it was to patronize Warren Jeffs is a crock.
This is Willie.
This is the Willie we know.
And if Warren was not guilty, why did he take off and run? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Innocent people don't run.
I'm not going to sit and defend that as far as that aspect. All I'm saying is...
You are defending it.
Well, here's the thing I'm defending. I'm defending a Constitution. And in the Constitution, I'm innocent until proven guilty. Here's a case where he should...
In a criminal case, we took it civilly.
All I'm asking for, let the system work.
It worked.
Oh, it works.
Recognize it when it does.
Okay, the case settled, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So the case settled.
Yes.
And
Brent won the case.
by settlement.
Well, it was by default. Warren didn't show.
Yeah, by default.
Do you see what I don't want to do is sound like I'm defending Warren. What I'm trying to
Then
defend
stop
as a
defending
listing.
him.
I'm trying to defend a system that absolutely does not, that if there's a crime, take the crime. And I'm going to go on record right now. This is not healthy because what you're making it sound like is that I don't believe that there's any victimization. I am not saying that. I'm saying in a courtroom, there was people that investigated this very deeply as to whether there was enough evidence to bring that case to a criminal indictment and a conviction against him. Okay, and it didn't meet the burden, but that doesn't say that it didn't happen. I'm saying it didn't meet the judicial burden.
Year after year after year, Warren Jeffs went not convicted. Does that mean that he hadn't done anything wrong? No, it doesn't mean he hadn't done anything wrong. It meant it took years to get through the labyrinth of lawyers and evasions and running and hiding and all that to finally get to the point of being in court. Now, let me tell you something. I spent 15 years as a litigation consultant. I've spent more time in court than you have, I promise, even with you being involved with Warren Jeffs. And I'm telling you, the assertion you're making is simply non-credible. The fact that it took years to get him convicted doesn't mean he didn't do crimes up until the time he was convicted.
And
that just meant it took that long to get him convicted. And look, I wasn't there. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I got to tell you, given what I do now know, that this seems completely consistent with what we now know to be his morals and his practices. Would you agree that it's consistent with what we now know about his conduct in other situations and circumstances?
You're trying to make me defend something that's indefensible.
I'm just asking you to answer the question. Is this inconsistent with what we now know about him?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Because if he raped this little guy right here, we'd have had 500 little kids in that student's rape. And guess what we couldn't do? We couldn't go find another one when we opened an investigation. Because if you got a pedophile that's raping little boys, he's the principal of the school, we'd have had 100 of them. Somebody doesn't stop with one little boy. Okay, they just don't.
I'll tell you what, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this.
There's a whole bunch.
Let's take a look at this right here.
Are you afraid of Warren?
Yes, I am.
Why?
He has some ability to just control me. I don't understand it. When I'm in his presence, I feel like a freaking retarded little baby. It reminds me of when I was in school. He'd take me in the classrooms and do whatever he's doing with me, spanking me, pulling my pants down, making me stand there naked in front of him for hours on end.
What is it exactly do you think Warren was afraid that you would tell me?
That he molested me and that he was sexually abusing me. The first time that it happened, he spanked me with a yardstick in front of the entire classroom to prove, give me my discipline or whatever. He'd get real close to me, rubbing himself on me, filling my ass with his hands, getting himself off or whatever he was doing. I didn't even understand that at the time. I had no clue what that was or what it meant or anything.
What angers you the most?
That he has so much power over so many people and they're willing to do whatever he says at a drop of a hat. Because they say he's speaking from God when that isn't true.
Now that was Doyle, another young man that says that this happened to him. You've been watching what we've been talking about out here. Is there anything we missed or that we need to put a sharper point on?
I think there's no way that Willie could ever deny that he was involved much more deeply than what has been talked about here today.
Well, in what way? Give him a chance to respond.
Well,
he deserves that.
Well, for instance,
don't just say something general. He likes specifics.
Okay,
Willie likes specifics. Bring it on.
Let's talk about Leroy Stubbs' baby girl, where you showed up with video cameras and stuck them in their face when he's trying to bury his baby. And you bring his brother out there and other family members out there to harass and intimidate him because they don't feel that this little baby girl should be buried with the pure elect people in the Short Creek Cemetery. They actually went out and buried the baby's grave. The people that went there for the next morning for the funeral had to redig the grave.
Can I get a response to any of it? Was
Sure.
you there at that funeral?
No, I wasn't, but I saw
that's
the
the
videos.
whole problem right there. Let's get some facts
Okay,
straight.
well, tell us what you did.
We met with the father the night before. He says, I would like the baby buried here in the cemetery. Mm-hmm. There's a certain way that the family plots are set up with the father, with the children, and with the issues there. The father was there, consented to it. The church offered, I was there with the sextons, offered to dig the hole, provide the vault.
Why did they dig a grave on the opposite side of the cemetery?
The father was there the night before, and it was not a problem. So it's another one of those problems where you got hearsay, you got a total distortion of facts, and it sounds
you live off that stuff, and that's what I'm talking about. You don't.
You weren't even there.
You don't want to let
accused me of having
go.
a camera. You accused me of being involved in it.
Why don't
and
you
know
just
what?
let it go and say it, tell it what it is? Why were you there?
The girl is my relay.
Why were you there?
The girl's and her father was there, and Leroy
so
never
you
knew
were
it.
a mourner. Is that what you're telling me?
I never had a camera, and I never
No,
left
but I
the
saw
girl's father.
videotapes of you being there.
With the girl's father.
No, you weren't with the wedding party, and you were
No, he
confronted
never
by
left
him
it.
later. I mean,
come on, Sam. It's not an honest analogy. I wasn't there as a deal. I showed up with the family. She was married to.
You didn't show up with the family.
The
Willie.
family never even attended the funeral because of this confrontation. You got triple or quadruple hearsay of circumstances that you don't know what you're talking about. I was there, okay?
I was there too.
You got triple or quadruple hearsay of circumstances that you don't know what you're talking about. I was there, okay?
I was there too. I dug the grave myself.
This is Ross Chatwin, and you have been a member of FLDS, correct?
Yes.
And Willie was actually involved in inviting you to leave, correct? According to you.
Yes. Yeah, he was one that pulled me out with my family out of church and said that I've got a problem with the prophet here and I'm not supposed to be here. And he asked, how did I get in the building? I happened to have a lot of people that loved me there, at least at that time anyway, and that's how I got in the building. They ignored that I walked in. I came into church, and apparently I wasn't supposed to be there for 3 weeks, William had told me.
So you actually dug this grave that's in
I
question?
dug this grave that we're talking about here. I dug it myself because Leroy asked me to, and he asked specifically here, I would like my baby to be buried with my father in my father's plot there. I put that there. Jethro showed me where he would like me to go do it, which I did. That night, the hole was buried. And then it was redug somewhere else here, which was an opposite corner, far away from any grave at all, any grave. It was like that, boy, there's sure a show and tell there.
Well, are you saying that Willie was involved in moving that grave?
I do not know if Willie was involved in moving that grave or not. I don't know that. All I know is that Willie was.
Of course I wasn't. I never knew anything about it until I went with the girl's father as respect to the baby. That's why I wanted specifics. Y'all wanted to sit and put this ugly stick over everyone without any facts, and I had nothing to do with it other than I met with the father and he said that he was good with it.
Here's a fact. This was sent out to 600 senators, congressmen, governors, heads of state, President Obama. This was sent out it was received by Congress on May 13, 2011. This is a warning to the nation, a petition to the President of the United States. Revelations of the Lord Jesus Christ to the people of the nation of the United States of America, to the peoples of the earth, through my servant Warren Jess. In this, he gives the most crazy prophecies and revelations, warning the government to let him go or suffer the judgments of God. And your signature is right there. This was in May, so what we've got to do is, I mean, if you're going to apologize, Willie, mean it. Apologize for everything.
That's what we want.
Admit what you are and what you did, and show some contrition. Show some sorrow. I mean, if you were there at that funeral doing your job, doing what you always do, then say it. You know, if you were in Texas doing your job, doing what you always do, then say it. But you got to let it go. I mean, you got to start saying you're sorry and mean it. And I hope that's what the path you're going on.
Well, let's be fair about what this is. There's a signature from every single member in the entire church, and these signatures are used on several documentations, including asking the government to return our land. So for you to come in here and say that it was to patronize Warren Jeffs is a crock. It was a deal that showed the entire church, and it showed that we were asking the government for redress of our own land.
Now, this is Willie.
This is the Willie we know.
Well, I want specifics, and you tell the crowd that it's every member of the church? Is that not honest?
Is that your signature?
Is that every member in the church?
Is that your signature?
You have babies. How can babies sign? We were looking at them. You have a baby signature in there. Tell me how a 1-year-old can sign their name.
Do you want to show me which one? Or do you want to just make generalities here? Those particular signatures was used on 5 or 6 documents, but that was signed by me asking for the government to give our land back.
No. This was signed by you saying, let Warren Jeffs go.
Is it notarized?
Well, so are you saying that you and everybody else here were defrauded by Warren?
I'm saying, unless you knew the context of when the paper was signed.
Did you sign this document?
The thing that I'm trying to explain to you is this document was used for multiple petitions, including our land.
I understand. Did you sign for
When
this
they
document
take
that
those
it's
signatures-
attached to?
No, when
Okay, so the answer is no, you didn't sign off on this document in May
That's
of
correct.
11.
That's exactly right.
So you're saying they took your signature from an earlier time when you were still
on a
in the
different
service,
declaration that we were
and
asking
they took
for.
it and transferred it over
And
to
that's
this.
why your lawyers for the FLDS submitted
See
that.
this right here? This is an attachment to signatures. These signatures were used on numerous documents. This attachment, when I signed it, was not there when my signature went here. That's what I was asking
There's some
for.
kind of fraud being perpetrated, whether it's on you or the attorneys that are trying to get land back or whatever.
Willie.
It's so important for specifics, because if you don't, people get hurt really bad.
I got a question here. I got a question here. That's William sure knows a lot about that here for not knowing anything about the inner workings of the church. I knew a lot about, like I heard William here say that, oh, I didn't know about any of these underage marriages that was going on, happening right here. I was nobody. And it was obvious here. You watch a pregnant 15-year-old girl walk into the grocery store to go buy some groceries here, and you're just like, whoa, I guess she must have got married. How can you say, William, here that you didn't know what was going on when you were as high up as you were?
And I asked you the same question at the time, that there seemed to be girls that were young enough looking that one would be concerned, a rational person would be concerned. And you know what I expected you to say? I expected you to say, you know, Dr. Phil, at that point, I really was loyal to the prophet, and my mind just didn't go there. I was functionally blind to those things, and I didn't see it, and I should have, and I'm sorry for it, and I'm wrong. Instead, you cited me law and generalities and things of that nature, and I'm not trying to pin you down. I'm trying to find out where your heart is on these issues now. And that's all I'm trying to do. You think I'm trying to convict you here. I'm not trying to cross-examine you. I'm trying to come to know what you knew and when you knew it, and how you feel about things now with the benefit of that 20/20 hindsight. But you come across very angry, and
well, I come across as I want
I'm attacking you. I'm not trying to attack you. I'm trying to come to know you, so I know something, and I've been over backwards to treat you fairly, and you know it. And let me tell you, I know how to cross-examine somebody, and I can certainly do it. But I've tried instead to just give you a forum to tell people where your heart is now, and what you want for this church. And you're throwing books at this man.
I didn't mean to. I dropped the book. I didn't mean to throw it. I was trying to show you in the breakfast that the letters were separate, or the signatures were separate than the document that went with the signature.
It was a belligerent response. Whether you dropped it or threw it, it was belligerent. He come up with example after example, and apparently you didn't do anything wrong. And so what is it you're apologizing for?
I think that all I'm asking to do is to be judged on what I did actually do wrong, which is plenty. The thing that I was asked to do was to accept total responsibilities over gravesite movals, over this case, which I was not involved with any of the act against you at all.
But apparently you were involved enough to find out all these facts saying that I'm a liar, and
I
I'm
didn't
lying
say that.
about
I just
this.
said I didn't have enough information to give it credit.
Yes, you did.
You talked about something earlier about a meeting where you allegedly swapped out a baby during an investigation to protect the father because it was an underage mother. That's very specific. Did you do that?
I'm tired of the details. Why don't you just step up to the plate? No, you're twisting everything that's been put on this stage.
You allegedly swapped out a baby during an investigation to protect the father because it was an underage mother. That's very specific. Did you do that?
Absolutely not.
Who did it then?
Do you know who did it?
I don't know who did it.
Do you know that it happened?
I don't.
Oh, yes, you do. You set up
I
the
was
meeting
known
with
about it
Teresa
when
Steve.
I was called about it. I had no knowledge of any of it.
She showed up. She showed up with a baby that wasn't hers, and you were there.
I had no idea of any of these things that you brought up until I was asked about it by law enforcement.
And when you found out, why didn't you call the authorities and let them know?
About what?
If
That
you
they had an
knew-
investigation going on?
No, if you knew that baby wasn't hers, morally, legally, why didn't you call and report it?
If you seem to know so much about the case, give us some details about it.
I'm tired of the details. Why don't you just step up to the plate?
That's
No, you're twisting everything that's been put on this stage.
I understand the scenario was they were going to test this baby for DNA to find out if the father was a certain individual.
Right.
And if so, then that person had had sex with an underage girl. And so they were bringing the baby to test for paternity, and she brought a different baby.
Yes.
But then when they tested the DNA didn't match the mother either.
That's right.
So therefore, it wasn't the real baby. And you're saying that you weren't a party to that and you didn't know about it. But
not at all.
You don't believe that?
No, I don't believe that.
You know what I think? I believe there's a point in time where people come to a precipice and have to make a decision that says, you know what, it's time to wipe the slate clean and move forward. And the people here that know you and have experienced you feel that you're not being honest with yourself or with others. I think that there are people here that feel like they agree with you that you have done some things that you shouldn't have done and that you agree in hindsight that you shouldn't have done. And I really got the spirit of the people here that they came here wanting to forgive you and accept an apology and move forward. But I think instead what they've gotten is belligerence, anger, and avoidance. And I think that frustrates everybody because I think they came here wanting to start a fresh time with you, a fresh day with you. And that's your responsibility. And you want specifics, that's a specific responsibility.
And they got to have it. Phil, they've got to have it. And we've got to have, we have to distinguish. And all I was asking for, folks, is to distinguish between stuff where we can absolutely know where it's at. Was that man kicked out of the church? He was. Did it crush him? He's crushed. His wife was crushed.
I'm not crushed at all. I'm actually very blessed by having that done to me. I opened up.
Well, there is a point. I get your point. There's a point where it turns, but there's a point where it's not really about defending yourself. It's about saying, can we get a fresh start? And, the all question is, what now? What happens with this church now? What I worry about from a psychological perspective is how these disillusioned people can go spinning off into a world they're not equipped to deal with. I would ask you this. Could you arrange for me to come in and sit down with some of these young girls without any monitoring and talk to them?
Which ones would you like?
I would like a selection of young girls there that I could come in and talk to and see what their challenges are and see what we could put on a to-do list to try and provide some psychological, emotional, spiritual support for some of these girls at this point and find out if they have a different story to tell. I would like to do that. Can you make that happen?
With the regime the way it is sitting today, there's a fear factor of anyone that would venture to try to voice that story. And everyone in this room, Ross knows it.
I grew up with
you know it. You know it. You know it.
But
what would be
Willie,
the consequences if any of those girls tried to step up?
We're going to focus on this. Obviously we're not done, but we are out of time. We as Americans, we have to be concerned about these people that have been led down a path and could well be disillusioned. and provide help and support. It's not about judging, it's about helping. It's about offering up help. It's about seeing if any will be accepted. The challenges could be great for the families that have been torn apart, for people that now start to leave there, because you can put up the gates, you can put up the walls, you can turn off the televisions, but eventually the message gets through. It's going to have an impact, there's no question. So we'll watch this very closely. We'll be right back. Well, I want to thank all of my guests today. Willie, Sam, Ross, Brent, Fawn, Joni, Stacy, thank you for everything that you allowed us to use footage-wise. Everyone in the audience is going to get a copy of Sam's book, Prophets Pray. You can tell I've read your book, Sam. It's marked up a little bit. Brent also has a book, Lost Boy, and you can get this online or in stores now. We're going to continue to follow the FLDS and keep tabs on the changes. I hope there are changes in the wind, and obviously I'm very concerned about this. I'm sure you guys are after the fact. I'm just a citizen like you, and I think this was an important discussion to have. So I think we'll continue to pay attention to what goes on. I thank the studio audience for your patience and respect today. Willie, thank you for coming. Sam, you guys, I hope you all will come together and talk. I'd sure buy you all lunch if you'd sit down and have a civil conversation. Thanks for being here so long.